The festival of Sukkos, the end of Sukkos commences in 48 hours, and we're moving completely into the Sukkah from our homes. The verse, the pasuk reads, "Bar Sukkos teishvu shivas yamin." You dwell in the Sukkah 7 days, and our sages on the word teishvu, from this they derive that we have to dwell in the Sukkah just like we dwell in our homes. Teishvu ke'ein tadur, just like we live in our homes. That's how we live in our Sukkah. The Sukkah should not be just a shack. It should be something that we should try to beautify and make it as nice as possible, decorative and comfortable and warm, with all kind of conveniences. Make it as a result, there's of course, even though there's obligation to eat and drink in the Sukkah, spend time in the Sukkah, but there of course there's exemptions, because the Torah was given not for angels, it was given for human beings. And if someone is not well, being in a Sukkah, if that in any way endangers his health, it exempts him. Not only exempts him, he shouldn't sit in the Sukkah, shouldn't endanger his health. But Torah is given that for a person to live and to enjoy, it's not asceticism. It wasn't made that he should in any way he should deprive himself of good health and good years. There came to the Chaim Oizer was the leader of world jury before the war, and there came to him a guest on Sukkos. The guest happened to be Rabbi Kotler, Baron Kotler. So he wasn't well, and he told his guest, he says, being that I'm not well, so I'm exempt, I can't eat in the Sukkah. He said that you'll sit down in the Sukkah, and my wife, my relative, she'll prepare, she'll bring everything out for you to have, to eat, to enjoy, the festive meal. But me, that I'm not well, so I won't be able to sit with you. I apologize. I have to stay in the house. So his wife first brought out the fish, and then the chicken soup, and then the chicken, and the kugel. And towards the end of the meal, Chaim Oizer, he walked into the Sukkah, and he sat down next to him. So he says to him, "What are you doing here?" And his guest asked, "What are you doing here? You're not well." He said, "You're exempt from sitting from the obligation of fulfilling the mitzvah of being in a Sukkah." He said, "You should stay in the house, stay in bed." So he said, "I'll tell you." He said, "There's two obligations here now. There's the obligation of being in a Sukkah, and there's the obligation of welcoming a host. He said, "You're my host." He says, the obligation of being in the Sukkah, that I'm exempt because I'm not well. But the obligation of sitting and greeting and making my host comfortable, he said, even if someone is not well, that is not exempt. He said, where do we derive this from? We derive it from who was the greatest host. That was our ancestor Abraham, Avraham Avinu, Abraham the patriarch. The Torah tells us that after he was commanded to be circumcised, he was recovering from the circumcision, from the bris, and there were guests, angels in the form of human beings, were passing by. He rose and he welcomed them, and he prepared for them what to eat, to make sure to feed them and to even drink. So we see from that even if you're not well, that obligation of making a guest feel comfortable and welcome. That's even if someone is not well. We observe the mitzvah of Sukkos in honor of the clouds of glory, which were created when our people were redeemed and exited from Egypt. You see, as Mitzrayim. So the question is, that's what Sukkot is all about. It's to commemorate those clouds of glory that our ancestors traveled through the desert with, which shielded them and protected them from heat and from rain and from cold, from everything. The question is, they exited from Egypt in the spring, in April, and Pesach, and Sukkot we observe in the fall. Why don't we observe Sukkot around Pesach time? So the Vilna Gaon says, he said like this, that after the clouds of glory, the Ananei Kovet, were created, and our ancestors who traveled through the desert, they were traveling with these clouds of glory. When that sin of the golden calf took place, so because of that transgression, the Almighty removed the clouds of glory. Clouds of glory were removed, the Vilna Gaon said, brought down, and they first came into existence again after the Almighty forgave our ancestors, and when Moshe Rabbeinu, when he came down after Yom Kippur, and the appeal was made for donations to build the tabernacle, the Mishkan, and when the Mishkan was built, then the clouds of glory again were restored, reinstated, they came into existence again, and that's what Sukkot was. The holiday of Sukkot has two names. It's called Chag HaOsif, the holiday of the ingathering, where we thank the Almighty for His bountiful blessing for the harvest, that farmers reaped from their fields. They had a bountiful harvest. It's also called Chag HaSukkos, the Feast of Booths. The term, the Meshech Chochmah says, the term Chag HaOsif, the festival of ingathering, is found in Parsha Shmos in Ki Sisa. So that was when the clouds of glory were removed. Was after they sinned with the golden calf, so there was no clouds of glory. So the Yontif of Sukkot was just to show our gratitude and to thank the Almighty for the bountiful blessing of the harvest. Later, the Vilna Gaon says, later on, in Parshas Re'eh, in Dvarim, Deuteronomy, after they were reinstated and they restored the clouds of glory, so after that it was called Chag HaSukkos. The question is, when they were traveling in the desert, they had there were three very unnatural phenomenons. A desert where something doesn't grow. A desert is something where there's a place where there's no water, and also you're out in the desert, so you're not shielded from the elements. So there was created the manna. Manna was created in the desert. Then they didn't have much water to drink. There was the air. The well was created. The well springs to feed. Our ancestors were traveling the desert to take care of their thirst. And then there was the clouds of glory. Why do we commemorate only the clouds of glory? Why don't we commemorate our gratitude to our ancestors that they had batit, they had the man, and they had the water? So the Chida says the following. He said with a parable. He says that if someone, you see, somebody sees a neighbor, a stranger, whoever it is, he's not a human being who's suffering hunger. So his heart, he feels bad. He has compassion. So he takes out, if he has what to give him, he gives him to take care of his hunger. But that does not take any sort of special effort. That doesn't show a special love. It's just a normal human tendency, a natural reaction. You see somebody hungry, you have to have a heart. When somebody's thirsty, so you give him something to drink. So the Almighty, so he says the following: the Almighty, he says, He took his children, our ancestors, out of Egypt and led them into the desert. So he's putting them into the desert. They had to have what to eat. So that didn't really show the Almighty's love for his children. The fact that he fed them the man and he fed them and he gave them water. But later on, in addition to that, when he made them feel so very comfortable and shielded them from, gave them even more than just the necessity. He gave them luxury, the luxury of the cause of glory. So that shows his love for his children, that he extended himself that far. So that's why we commemorate the clouds of glory and not the manna and not the well. Should be everything.